We started with home brewing years ago and wanted to turn it into a business. And so we started with the business plan, and me and my business partner, Colin, focused on that. And really, we connected with SCORE, and they were really the first ones that read our business plan before we started actually taking it to banks and to investors for financing. And March 12th, we were hosting a private event. And while I was kind of watching the front door while they were doing their speeches and such, I saw my Facebook feed and was just seeing more and more happening, and and that was the Thursday before they shut down restaurants. And so it was about 1 week before. And that's when it was like, okay, tomorrow we had caddies that had silverware and napkins on the tables. We're removing those, we're laminating our menus and sanitizing them in between each use. So we were literally doing that as we were opening and starting lunch service on Friday.
Wow.
And Saturday, we were looking into how to set up online ordering, and then spent the rest of the weekend also getting online ordering set up so that by Monday we had it live. And basically that weekend, we had also started encouraging takeout. We didn't want to shut down, even though we thought it was probably the more prudent thing to do. We wanted to give our staff some time to kind of prepare, and we wanted us to be prepared so that we weren't interrupted and didn't have to shut down if we went to go only. So we just basically were encouraging, you got discounts on beer to go and you got discounts on food to go. So it was actually cheaper if you took it home than eating in house. So even while we were open, we were trying to encourage the takeout aspect while we got the system set up so that we could make that easier if we did have to shut down. And we knew that our point of sale provider offered online ordering, but it was not something that was part of our plan pre-pandemic. But once we saw, I basically was not sleeping and was spending all night reading about what was happening in other parts of the country and other parts of the world. So seeing that places were shutting down completely, or we even saw that in some countries they were limiting restaurants being open from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. Or 8 p.m. or something like that. They weren't going to be open later. And really, we're probably not going to get as much of that dinner service. I think more discouraging people from drinking and getting a little looser with the rules and things. So since we didn't open until lunch, we also started talking about a week ahead about adding breakfast if something like that happened, so that we could just more shift those sales to the morning and still try and not be relegated to only one meal. And so while we didn't have kind of a curfew type thing set up, they just shut down restaurants completely. We still decided, so the Friday, so we had 2 days fully curbside only with our regular hours. And then by Friday, we switched to 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. as well, and added breakfast items so that we were open 7 days a week for 3 meals a day, and just tried to maximize. And over the period of being curbside only, about 10% of our sales were coming from breakfast. I try and plan to be one step behind instead of two. Like, I don't think you can really ever be ahead because you don't know what's coming. But I try and look, and that's what we did in the beginning was, if this happens, here's what we might do to be able to react. And something else might happen, but maybe that plan also works, just like the breakfast did. So we're just trying to add some of those things to be able to help us. And so it's just that same thing. What might happen and how can I prepare for that? And even if it doesn't happen, it's not wasted time, because maybe it gave us an idea that can help us. So having liquor and having a patio would have helped us in February, and it can still help us now. So even if things go back to normal, these are things that can help. Now, purchasing a canning line doesn't make sense for the long-term business for us. And so that's something that might help us in the short term, but it's a big investment that's not in our long-term plans. So that's something that doesn't work. So just really looking at current COVID, and future, pre or future, where we're not having to worry about these things, even if things don't get completely back to normal. What makes the most sense for your business and the vision that you had? And maybe that vision changes a little bit. We never planned to add liquor, and if this didn't happen, we might not have had to, but it's not a bad business decision. It's just different than what we had in mind, and that's okay.